This is Linda Favela, Ezekiel 5. In the last chapter, Yahweh told Ezekiel to construct a diorama of the future siege of Jerusalem. Now Yahweh will instruct Ezekiel to use his hair. Verse 1. You, son of man, take a sharp sword. You shall take it as a barber's razor to yourself, and shall cause it to pass over your head and over your beard. Then take balances to weigh and divide the hair. A third part you shall burn in the fire in the middle of the city, when the days of the siege are fulfilled. You shall take a third part and strike with the sword around it. A third part you shall scatter to the wind, and I will draw out a sword after them. You shall take of it a few in number, and bind them in the folds of your robe. Of these again you shall take and cast them into the middle of the fire, and burn them in the fire. From it a fire will come out into all the house of Israel. Comment in verses 1 to 4, when Ezekiel finishes his 430 days demonstrating the siege and famine, he'll use his hair to demonstrate what will become of Jerusalem's people. He'll shave his head and beard with a sharp sword, gather the hair, and divide it into 3 equal parts. The hairs represent the people of Jerusalem. The sword represents Yahweh's sword against them. Shaving of the head signifies there's been a great calamity, Job 1:20 and Micah 1:16. Ezekiel will take 1/3 of the hair, place it on the model of Jerusalem, and burn it. He'll put another third on the ground and strike the sword around it. The last third he'll scatter to the wind. Yahweh will draw out a sword against the ones scattered. Finally, Ezekiel will take a few hairs that he reserved in the folds of his robe. He had secured them there, but now he'll take them out and throw them in the fire. From the fire will come a fire into all the house of Israel. Yahweh will explain the parable later in the chapter that a third of the people will die by pestilence and famine in the city. A third will fall by the sword, and a third he'll scatter to the nations, but they won't be safe because he'll draw the sword after them. And a few of them will remain in the land a little while, but even they will be dislodged, and Yahweh will chase them with the sword. This was all fulfilled in 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and Jeremiah. Now Yahweh will explain what provoked all this. He says, verse 5, Thus says the Lord Yahweh, this is Jerusalem. I have set her in the middle of the nations, and countries are around her. She has rebelled against my ordinances in doing wickedness more than the nations, and against my statutes more than the countries that are around her, for they have rejected my ordinances, and as for my statutes, they have not walked in them. Comment in verse 5, Yahweh says he set Jerusalem in the middle of the nations, which is interesting because even today it seems Jerusalem is in the middle of the world at the junction of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and at the junction of East and West. In verse 6, Jerusalem rebelled from God more than the surrounding nations, or Jerusalem was more accountable than the surrounding nations because Jerusalem had Yahweh's law but rejected it. Verse 7. Therefore, thus says the Lord Yahweh, because you're more turbulent than the nations that are around you, and have not walked in my statutes, neither have kept my ordinances, neither have followed the ordinances of the nations that are around you. Comment in verse 7, Jerusalem is more turbulent than the surrounding nations, also translated they rebelled more and they were in more turmoil. They didn't follow God's law that he gave them, and they didn't follow the laws of the nations around them. The surrounding nations all had some version of law, but Jerusalem was completely lawless. Since Yahweh is so disturbed by this, verse 8, Therefore thus says the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I, even I, am against you, and I will execute judgments among you in the sight of the nations. I will do in you that which I have not done, and which I will not do anything like it any more, because of all your abominations. Therefore the fathers will eat the sons within you, and the sons will eat their fathers. I will execute judgments on you, and I will scatter the whole remnant of you to all the winds. Comment in verse 8, the disasters coming to Jerusalem won't be accidental. They'll come from the hand of God by measured intention. In verse 9, Jerusalem's abominations have provoked Yahweh such that he'll punish her like he's never punished before and never will again. In verse 10, in the siege and famine, fathers will eat sons, and sons their fathers. There will be various judgments, and Yahweh will scatter the survivors to the winds. Verse 11. Therefore, as I live, says the Lord Yahweh, surely because you've defiled my sanctuary with all your detestable things and with all your abominations, therefore I will also diminish you. My eye won't spare, and I will have no pity. A third part of you will die with pestilence, and they'll be consumed with famine within you. A third part will fall by the sword around you. A third part I'll scatter to the winds, and will draw out a sword after them. Thus my anger will be accomplished, and I'll cause my wrath toward them to rest, and I'll be comforted. They'll know that I, Yahweh, have spoken in my zeal when I have accomplished my wrath on them. Comment in verse 11, they defiled Yahweh's temple with detestable abominations, meaning they put idols in the temple. They practiced foreign religion in the temple, 2 Kings 21:4 and 5, and 2 Chronicles 33:5. They diminished Yahweh, so Yahweh will diminish them. In verse 12, in the city Yahweh will kill a third by pestilence and famine, a third by the sword, and a third he'll scatter to the winds. Of the ones scattered he'll draw out a sword after them. In verse 13, thus Yahweh will be comforted, also translated, he'll be satisfied, appeased, and avenged. In the end, the remnant will know that it was he. Verse 14. Moreover, I will make you a desolation and a reproach among the nations that are around you, in the sight of all that pass by. So it will be a reproach and a taunt, an instruction and an astonishment to the nations that are around you, when I execute judgments on you in anger and in wrath and in wrathful rebukes. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. When I send on them the evil arrows of famine that are for destruction, which I will send to destroy you, I will increase the famine on you and will break your staff of bread. I will send on you famine and evil animals, and they'll bereave you. Pestilence and blood will pass through you. I'll bring the sword on you. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. Comment in verses 14 and 15, foreign travelers will pass through the empty ruins of Judah and Jerusalem. They'll see what happened there and spread the news to all the nations what an utter disaster and embarrassment this was to the Jews. The nations will taunt the Jews over it. In verses 16 and 17, Yahweh will send evil arrows, famine, destruction, breaking of the staff of bread, evil animals, pestilence, blood, and sword. These are a mixed bag of metaphors and literal ways he'll consume them, for he has spoken it in verse 17. And that's the parable of Ezekiel's hair. Ezekiel 6 is next.